Welcome, Giten. Good to see you here. Thank you for being with us today. Oh, you can't unmute. Can you try now?
Okay, now it's working.
Great, thank you. So Giten, maybe I will shortly first say a few words about you to introduce you to our audience. So in 2008, Giten developed a trauma release modality called Biodynamic Breathwork, which uses a multimodal approach to support individuals and groups in releasing effects of post-traumatic events such as physical abuse, war trauma, PTSD, developmental traumas, and other forms of trauma. He is the founder and director of Biodynamic Breathwork and Trauma Release Institute and the lead facilitator of BBTRI trainings. He is also the author of Feel to Heal, a best-selling book on healing using breathwork. Does it feel complete, Giten, or would you like to add something to it?
Yeah, pretty complete. Thanks, Michael.
Okay, thanks. So I couldn't wait to this conversation because breathwork has a very special place in my heart. Actually, I didn't explore it as a mental health professional yet, but I had numerous occasions to use it for my own healing. I have experienced biodynamic breathwork a lot, holotropic breathwork, conscious connected breathwork, and right now I'm learning Buteyko methods. So I really love exploring it. And actually, my first question is about the endless number of modalities out there connected to breathwork. It's sometimes for me it's easy to get lost, and I'm very curious how you feel about it, and also how we can find our way to the right modalities, and how does your method fit into all of this?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah, so there are many breathwork modalities, as you mentioned. Just the few that you mentioned, it's really just the beginning. People have been using breath for exploring alternate states of consciousness, mainly for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And a lot of breath is used, as you know, in pranayama, in yoga, in other Vedic sciences and holistic sciences, healing sciences. But the breath work that you mentioned, mostly like holotropic breath work, rebirthing, these modalities are mainly focused to exploring alternate states of consciousness. When Stan Grof developed holotropic breath work years ago, this is all stemmed out from explorations of working with LSD.
Yeah.
And breath, actually, because of its power, the way it works on the body, it supports our pineal gland to release DMT and go into all these alternate states of consciousness. But what sets biodynamic breathwork apart is actually it's focused on embodying yourself during the exploration with breath. So we don't just go into a very long breath sessions, like, let's say, for example, holotropic breath work, that the breath session can last several hours. The way biodynamic breath work works, we work with breath to activate our sympathetic nervous system first. So we bring up some material to the surface so we can work with in the session. And once that material is up, we sustain the breath for a certain period of time in a certain breath patterns to keep that charge up to a certain level. And we can also use breath to bring the charge down. So the breath is mainly used to work with our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, to stimulate it in certain ways, depending how we want to use it in the session. But the biggest thing that sets biodynamic breathwork apart is really embodying. So we want to stay present to our physicality during the session. So we don't leave the body. We stay with the body. We stay with the felt sensation. And felt sense, of course, working with trauma is instrumental. So we want to work with the felt sensations while we're present to our physical body. And for those of you who work with trauma, you know that one of the first things that happens when a person is traumatized, they dissociate from their physical body. Too much is happening at once. It's a lot to process. So bringing the breath into the body, back into the body. What we're doing, we're first of all beginning to reconnect with our physicality. To dissociate, you need to cut off your breath. Yeah. People go into hyperventilating and then they check out. People go into holding their breath, they go into freeze mode. So when we're gently beginning to bring the breath back, we are facilitating people to get more sensitive to what's being held in the physical body. And that's the creative way that we use the breath. And of course, sometimes you need to breathe a little deeper and faster. Sometimes you need to slow it down. Sometimes we breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Sometimes it's mouth, breath, connected breathing. Sometimes it's prolonged out breath. It all depends how it's used in the session. What is the right time to bring certain ways of breathing?
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah, thank you for that. You mentioned about charge, like bringing the charge, sustaining the charge or bringing it up. Can you say, what do you mean by charge?
So when we are deeply, fully breathing, our body converts our breath into energy, converts oxygen into energy. So this is the charge that I'm talking about. When we are constantly charging the body with breath, we're breathing in and breathing in and breathing in, we're getting more and more energetic charge in the body. So when we are kind of pumping oxygen into our body, the body begins to charge with that energy. The next step is to support ourselves to move that energy. Yeah, that's how we work with breath. Is you don't want to just charge it and leave it where it is. You want to support that energy that's accumulated from breath to start to move through you. That's why we use movement in biodynamic breathwork as one of the 6 elements.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm very curious how the breath brings or helps us bring our emotions, to the front. How it happens, because we breathe and then it comes, right? It like a wave. And why this happens, how this happens.
Yeah. And for those of you, it looks like, because you said that you experienced breath work before, and breath and emotions are very closely connected. That's why in our Western world, it's kind of an epidemic. People don't want to feel, they don't want to breathe.
Yeah.
So the moment the person starts to deeply, fully breathe, we open up to emotions. And when people don't want to feel, they cut off their breath. So usually emotionally alive people that allow themselves to feel, that allow themselves to experience their feelings, their emotions, they fully, deeply breathe. But as we go through life, we suppress our breath, we suppress our feelings because of circumstances, because of trauma, because of certain life conditions, the relationships we're in, stress, various factors are at play here. So when we are actually begin to release that tension that's associated with holding that charge in the body, not allowing the charge to move, emotions are coming up to the surface. So any charge, any tension that we store in our physical body has some kind of emotional charge, some kind of repressed or stuck emotions associated with it. Whether the charge has been there for years, maybe it's connected to developmental trauma, developmental disruption, or some shock trauma or abuse, that charge results in some sort of tension. Sometimes it's very superficial tension, such a body armoring. Sometimes it's deeper tension that's held at the core of the body. But nevertheless, any of that tension, it holds emotional charge. So when breath comes in, we charge our body with breath. with that energy that I was talking about, that energetic charge. And that after some time, that energetic charge wants to move. It wants to release itself. So the emotions that are stuck in that energetic charge come up to the surface, a release happens. But it's also important to support people when that emotional release happens so they don't overwhelm themselves. We don't want to just like rip the armoring off and just leave them completely vulnerable. That's not how we work with trauma. We work with very specific ways of pendulation and titration. So we work within what's called window of tolerance, and each person has their unique window of tolerance. So we work within that window of tolerance so the person can actually be with their experience without dissociating. Yeah. So it's very important to stay connected to that.
I like that. And you mentioned about the 6 elements of biodynamic breathwork. Would you like to share what are those?
Sure, absolutely. So when I was developing biodynamic breathwork, I first started with just 3 elements: breath, movement, and sound. For me, this was the golden combination of tools that produces the result. So as I went deeper into exploring, another 3 arose. So I'm going to start with the first one, which is breath. So I spoke a little bit about the breath, the effects of breath on the body. When we want to elevate our energy level, we're breathing deeply. When we want to diminish our energy level, we go into parasympathetic activation, we prolong the exhale. So we work with breath in all these creative ways. So breath is the primary element. The second element is movement. So within the breath itself, movement is contained. So when we're deeply, fully breathing, there's movement in our body. Our diaphragm moves, our rib cage expands, our lungs expanding, contracting, all this auxiliary musculature that's involved in the breath. So what we want to do in biodynamic breathwork is to allow that movement that is happening on the interior of the body to move through to the periphery. So one of the main ways that we work with movement is the spinal unwinding. So it kind of mimics the movement of the invertebrates in the sea. For example, an octopus or jellyfish. If you notice how it moves, the movement comes from the core. It comes from the core, from the interior, and then this movement spreads to the periphery. So when we're working with breath, we're bringing up the charge. We want to support that charge to move us. Rather than imposing the movement from our musculature, we want to connect with the energetic charge and let it take over. When our body moves in that way, first of all, we support the movements of all the fluid in the body, the lymph, the blood, and the interstitial fluid. All of the fluids in the body become activated. And this supports the movement of the energy through pathways. We know that the energy moves through certain pathways from Chinese medicine. That's how acupuncture works. So breath and movement are the first 2 elements. The third element is touch. So touch is used to support that opening, that physical opening. It could be used in a form of body work to support the deeper opening of the actual physical tissues, muscles, and fascia. But touch can also be used as a resource. Putting your hands very gently on the body to support the person to come down. When something hurts, we instinctively put our hands on our physical body. So touch is the third element. The fourth element is sound. When there's so much energy activated in the body, the sound wants to move. It supports our opening of expression. Yeah, almost entire population of this planet has expression compromised. The energy moves, it wants to come out, and then we lock up our throat, we lock up our jaw, and we don't allow the sound, our expression, our creativity to flow. So sound, besides opening that channel of expression, it produces vibration in our physical body. It's the most powerful musical instrument we have is our voice, because it comes from the inside. It impacts the vibration of all of the cells. It moves through the body, through the fluids in our physical body. Bones conduct sound very well. So we have breath, movement, touch, sound, and that's a golden combination for tension to begin to release. And that brings us to the fifth element, is emotional expression. So when tension begins to release, emotions that are locked up in that physical tension, sometimes it's chronic tension, sometimes tension's been there for just recently, it all comes up to the surface. And I spoke a little bit about it in the way that we work with it. Yeah, when it comes up to the surface, we support the conscious expression of emotion. And the last element is meditation. So meditation gives us opportunity to come back to ourselves and observe, be a witness to what's happening for us without putting it through the filter of our mind to try to come up with the answer, but rather being with the experience, supporting the whole body to come into the parasympathetic state, and allow the insight to come up. And the most powerful insights only come in the state of meditation. They don't come through analyzing and thinking, because once we begin to put things through the filters of our mind, this is all learned information. Yeah, but deepest insights of ourselves only come up through silence. And those of you, and you too, probably, Michael, but just working with breath, you know that breath supports that state of silence, this deep state of silence, to come very quickly and very naturally. So these are, in a nutshell, the 6 elements of biodynamic breathwork, and they work together like this beautiful fine dance. They all support each other. It's not just you can focus on one and forget about the others. They are happening in the session. They flow in the session as very integrative way.
I love that. I'm pretty much fascinated by the biology elements you mentioned. I guess it's the biodynamic, the bio aspect in the name, right? You also take it into account.
Yeah. So biodynamic, bio is in Greek is life, and dynamo is movement. So it's a life force movement through the body, the movement of life force energy. And that's why I came up with this name. And the name's used in other contexts of biodynamic craniosacral therapy, biodynamic agriculture. I'm not even sure why it's used in that. I didn't explore that so much, but it made a lot of sense to me to bring that word to biodynamic, because it's exactly what's happening. We are restoring the movement of bioenergy through the body, the energy that's been compromised and locked in tension. Any tension that we hold, it's arrested energy in essence.
Yeah. Okay. So are there any types of clients or symptoms that would be particularly well suited for breathwork?
From my years of working with people, we had all types of people coming to trainings, coming to sessions to work with me. So I think pretty much anybody can benefit from it.
Yeah.
People that are dealing with a lot of PTSD, that are really traumatized, maybe for them breathwork maybe not so much useful right in the beginning, but as they go through their healing, breathwork can be introduced. And also in very short segments. We don't go into a lot of charge. Like even 3 to 5 breaths sometimes is enough to bring the energy level to the place where a person feels, okay, I'm good there.
Okay.
So it can work with pretty much anyone. Anybody that holds tension in the body, anybody that feels that they're so caught up in the mental activity and they need to bring themselves down into the body, breath does that very well.
I'm also curious, of course, we cannot divide the body from the mind, but are you also seeing clients who come in with a particularly like bodily, like a chronic, I don't know, a neck pain or leg pain or something like that, like some chronic physical pains, which then turn out to be also, you can work with them by breathwork?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, we'll look at the psychosomatic connection, why the chronic pain is there. And I would say in majority of the cases, if it's a chronic pain, it's connected to some kind of emotional charge that's stuck in the body.
Okay.
Yeah. Whether the emotional charge is connected, the origin of the charge, the pain itself, or the emotional charge causes the pain.
Yeah.
It's like what comes first, the chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
So, but we are working in accessing that material that's stuck in the body, that arrested energy that is locked in the pain, within the pain. Pretty much most of the pain that people experience, chronic pain, has a factor of tension that's associated with it. Pain produces tension. And we know that from diagnosing it. Whatever is hurts in the body will be the tightest. And the whole surrounding area. And it's like a domino effect. If one area of the body starts to hurt and it hurts consistently, the rest of the body starts to contract.
Okay.
So we realign, we create that environment to hold that pain in place. So breath work is extremely useful in that sense. So when we start to release that tension, the emotional charge, the pain starts to dissipate. And that actually happens very quickly and can happen within a session or two. The person can feel amazing reliefs. So because of the element, one of the elements is touch and body work in biodynamic breath work. So breath in combination with body work, we can go into those areas with very specific techniques to open up and see what comes up and then support that container for things to be expressed.
Interesting. Yeah. Are there any ways of applying breath work into counseling?
Yeah. Well, the way that I do it, I work a lot with the concept of felt sense. So when someone comes to a session with me, we always start with some kind of a dialogue. I want to find out why the person is there, what they feel they need to work with. Maybe they are not sure about it. So we need to find out what is the root of the issue. So the counseling is for sure is a primary, not a primary, it's a beginning point. We need to start with the dialogue. So once we start with the dialogue, I listen to the voice, to the tone of the voice, the way that the person carries their body. I observe there's so many details. I watch how they breathe. And based on that, I may ask them to slow down. It could be within the conversation, like, okay, so let's take a moment now to bring your attention to how what you're saying is felt in your physical body. That's when we begin to bring the felt sense into it. So for example, if someone is talking about a situation that happened in the past and they're describing something, all right, let's slow down and bring your attention back to your physical body. If the emotion comes, for example, how do you experience this in terms of felt sensations? For that, we need to take first few full breaths so the person becomes more sensitive to what they're experiencing in their physical body. And again, the deeper you breathe, the more sensitive you are. More shallow breath, more numb you will feel. So breath is brought in short interval, maybe up to a minute of deep, full breathing. Sometimes it's in through the nose, sometimes and out through the mouth, and sometimes it's right away in and out through the mouth, so to bring up the charge. So that kind of breath supports the person to reconnect with their physicality, to reconnect with their physical body, so they can actually reflect in the real time how what they're talking about is reflected in their physical body. For me, counseling that is connected somatically, that's connected to the physical body, has the most powerful effect. When we stay on the mental level, this all goes, like I said, goes through the filters of the mind. We can analyze, but when we bring it into the body does not lie. It right away will tell you what is actually going on. And then all of a sudden you get this insight. And that only comes because you become more sensitive by taking deep breaths.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very important. So the title of your book is Feel to Heal. Can you explain how Feel to Heal works to address post-trauma using breath?
Yeah. So again, we're coming back to our feelings, to our emotions. When trauma happens, it can be devastating. It can shatter someone's world. And the intensity of emotions that flood the body, and feelings and emotions, can be overwhelming. So what people do, they, after a while, to prevent that overwhelm, they shut down. And that shutdown is reflected either in complete loss of energy, or it can be reflected in overcharge. Somebody is constantly in a fight or flight mode, but nevertheless, they're not feeling, they're not connected with their physical body, and they're not connected with their emotions, or they're overstimulated in their emotions. Yeah, they're feeling so much that it becomes they're snapping left and right. So Feel to Heal is oriented to bringing people back into feeling their physical body, so the healing, natural healing, can take place. So when we allow our feelings and emotions to be felt within this window of tolerance that I said, that I talked a bit about before, people begin to heal. We are triggering natural process in the body to restore the homeostasis.
Yeah, amazing. So it's like also activating the inner healer, right? This inner wisdom of our body.
Precisely. Just by going through these processes, we trigger the body to come back to its natural healing state. Our body is incredible. It will always, no matter what situation you're in, no matter what chronic illness you have, it's made in a way that it always wants to come back to a healthy state. It's constantly looking for ways to heal itself. So what we're doing, we are helping our body to find ways to heal itself by removing tension. The body cannot heal itself because the energy is blocked. It's blocked by holding certain tension.
Yes. For me, what was interesting with breathwork is that, I knew going into breathwork that, it's important to trust the body because it knows, but not having that experience of my body knowing what to do, it was like a leap of faith. But when I did the breath work, thinking about all the intentions I had, and like, I want to do this, I want to do that, but then I do breath work and just my body really, like, the intentions are like gone, and it goes into something very particular that I wasn't expecting totally, but then it felt like it was what I really needed. My body really knew where I need to go within myself. These experiences helped me a lot in the like gaining or building the trust that my body really knows. But it's probably not always like that. Not always easy to learn to trust the body, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Someone who has held a lot of trauma in their physical body for years, maybe since their infancy or childhood, it's not so easy for people to trust to their physical body.
Yeah.
We work with Reichian character structures, and one of the first character structures is a split type, a person that experienced trauma, whether within the time being in the womb or at birth or first 6 months after birth. So people that experience this kind of trauma, or maybe intense trauma, or very, very traumatic birth or life-threatening situation at birth or right after birth, or not feeling safe simply being in the womb,
Yeah.
they dissociate from physical body. They disconnect. It takes a while to actually start to come back. As adults, people come into looking for themselves like, wow, I have a physical body and I can experience world through it. It's not always flying somewhere or connecting with alternate realities. Like, let's come back and ground. This body is a gift from existence. So let me take that gift and learn from it. It keeps me on this planet. It's a means for me to experience the world, experience food, experience sexuality, experience exercise, nature, relationship, touch. So that's the whole kind of concept of coming back into the body through the body. The body is our anchor.
Yeah. Okay, so you offered that you can get us through an experiential piece, like a guided meditation, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Is this something you'd like to do right now?
Sure. Let's take like 10 minutes for it. So I want to invite everyone to sit up wherever you are and take a moment to close your eyes and connect to your breath. Let your breath show you where it wants to naturally go. Does it want to go into your chest? Maybe it's just upper chest. Maybe it's moving down into the lower chest. Maybe you can feel as you breathe, your rib cage expands. Maybe you can feel the movement of your diaphragm, how the diaphragm contracts and presses down into your abdominal cavity. So take a few full breaths that way. Naturally, without changing anything, knowing, just feeling into your physical body, how the breath is moving for you. Yes. And now, when you find the place where the breath is moving naturally, put your hand on it. Maybe it's your chest, or maybe it's going down in your belly. So now imagine that under your hand, there's this rubber ball. And each time you breathe in through the nose, this rubber ball expands. Each time you breathe out, it comes back to its original shape. And this way, take a few full breaths. Full, I mean, you use your whole lung capacity. Breathing in fully and breathing out. And as you breathe out, allow a little bit of your voice to come up. So you're not really using a lot of your voice. You're not loud, but just letting the soft vibration to happen in your throat. And as the vibration happens in your throat, let's see if it comes down a little bit more into your chest. So take a few more full breaths that way. Deep breath in. So when you exhale, relax your lower jaw. let your mouth slightly open. So you're not really breathing out through clenched teeth or through your lips. Your mouth needs to be open. And let's stay for the next couple of minutes with deep and full breath. Each time you're breathing in, it's expanding in the place where breath is flowing naturally, and it's flowing out simply because you allow. So your effort is only needed to inhale. Let your body breathe out on its own. Yeah, so when we're breathing out, your diaphragm relaxes, breath actually comes out. We try to keep inhalation and exhalation equal length. And the inhale is a half a circle, exhale is another half a circle. And let's keep that going, about a medium tempo. And with each exhalation, letting yourself bring in that sound of your voice just slightly, and being aware of the vibration that is being created from your voice coming in, of your breath coming out, and your voice arising. Now, when your hand is on your body, in the place where the breath is moving, be aware of that inner movement that's happening with the breath. You put your hand onto the place in your body where you felt that movement of your breath. So now, notice if you allow yourself to relax enough, so the movement that happens in the physical body, in your interior, starts to move through towards the periphery and begins to move through you like a wave. So the movement arises and it's not stuck anywhere. It moves like a wave. It moves like a wave coming onto the shore and flowing back out. And notice if you allow yourself to move in that way, where in your body this wave may be getting interrupted. See if it wants to move up your spine and down your spine. Maybe your shoulders want to move, your neck. Maybe it wants to move all the way down to your pelvis. But stay present and connected to this deep, full breath. There is no break between inhalation and exhalation. We want to continue flow in that way without any pause in between. And as you continue to experience yourself this way, be aware of the felt sensations that begin to come up. Yeah, maybe for some of you who are very sensitive to breath, maybe there's some tingling, some sort of activation wants to come. Maybe for someone else, you notice that your attention goes back into the mind or your thoughts. Just simply bring it back to your physical experience, being rooted and grounded in your physical body. Yes, for another minute or so, let's stay connected. Let's stay breathing. Now, with inhalation, let's begin to open your arms. And with exhalation, you can cross your arms across your chest. And if you feel like you're yawning, that could be part of the big breath. Sometimes deep, full breath triggers this reflex in the body. So breathing in and breathing out. So again, you are bringing more of that internal movement together with muscular movement in conjunction with the breath. You're flowing together in unison. The movement that happens on the interior now merges with the movement that happens on the periphery. Notice that you can involve your neck, you can involve the rest of the spine. We're looking for this wave of the spine that wants to come up. Another couple of minutes. Yes. It's like saying yes to yourself with each breath. Yeah? Giving yourself this opportunity to reconnect to your physical body through the means of breath, movement, and your own touch. Let's keep going a little while longer. And with the next opening, reach high, reach very wide. And exhale now, wrap your arms tight around your body, giving yourself this beautiful tight hug. And now let yourself feel this beautiful support of your own touch, the resource of your own touch. Coming back to natural breathing, normal breath. And just relaxing your arms and let your arms move on to any place in your body that feels like it needs your attention. Yeah, and if you felt a bit lightheaded, that's totally okay. Yeah, sometimes it may happen simply because you begin to breathe deeply. You bring so much oxygen into your body, and it will level out in half a minute or so. Yes. So notice when your hands are on your physical body, what does it feel like for you right now in terms of felt sensations? Yeah. Most likely, many of you became more sensitive. Even we've done it for like almost 10 minutes, like 7, 8 minutes, we breathe, and it works extremely fast. Yeah, just some of you experience all these tingling sensations all over your body. This is actually the charge that I was talking about. We're awakening with our breath. We're awakening our bioenergy. We are generating the charge, and we're letting this charge do its magic in our physical bodies. So now I invite you to open your eyes and just scan your immediate space. Yeah, moving your eyes around your room. Just take in the shape of the objects, the colors. Yeah, maybe take a look out the window if you see a tree or blue sky or something that supports you. Yeah, this way we're activating our ventral vagal complex. Yeah, that's responsible for social engagement, for our connection to each other, to working with our surrounding environment. All right. Welcome back, everyone.
Thank you, Giten. It was beautiful practice. I felt the charge, and right now I feel like I feel very comfortable in my body, like a relaxing and at the same time energizing experience. Yeah, and I can see that some of the people are also sharing their experiences here in the chat. Thank you so much, and yes, feel free to share your experience. Ola, at the end of the practice, my body was saying, it is enough for you, don't do any more breath. So I stopped a bit before the end, listening to my body. Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much. So I'd like to open space for your questions. So if any one of you have any questions to Giten, please write them on the chat. And in a minute, I will read them out loud to Giten, and we'll have 10 minutes for a Q&A. Before that, before we respond to questions, I want to shortly say that Giten will lead 2 workshops during the 3-month training, integrating the workshops will be called Integrating Breathwork into Counseling, Practical Tools for Supporting Mind-Body Integration and Resilience. And I just want to say that Giten will offer guidance on how to combine successful somatic approaches with the elements of biodynamic breathwork. And you will be introduced to the primary tools of breathwork and body work, including felt sense, resourcing, and pendulation. Workshop attendees will begin to develop the senses that make trauma release possible. Giten will cover how to support individuals in person and also in the online realm. So through some experiential practices and skills you can use, you will learn how this method supports healing from trauma and how it increases resilience. And the goal will be to empower you with tools needed to facilitate healing experiences that can be profound and transformative. So it will be 2 workshops, 2.5 hours each. So in total, 5 hours with Giten. Yep, it will be amazing. Okay, so let's see if there are any questions here. I can see Deshana asks, is there any chance of someone's Kundalini being activated during such a breathwork session?
Yes, there is a chance of that. Like I said, breath, it activates energy in the body. And Kundalini awakening, it's a surge of energy. All of a sudden, your circuits are open and the energy is flowing through. We try to avoid that happening simply because it may be overwhelming for the nervous system. But that said, we prepare the nervous system for that to happen. And actually, in our in-person trainings, when we teach, let's say, a 7-day in-person course, the way we structure the sessions is working from the top down, opening the body through the 7 belts of tension, going from the top down. And then when we get to the pelvis, the body is open and the energy from the pelvis, from the sacral area, has a chance to come up through the nervous system, through the central nervous channel. And that is actually, it's called, in some practices called Kundalini awakening, and Reichian therapy, that's called an orgasm reflex, because it does feel like the body goes into full-on tremor. It's a release. It's very similar to sexual orgasm, but it's not concentrated in any way in a genital area. It's an energy charge that is moving up. But for people who have very fragile nervous system, for them, that could be a lot to handle, a lot to process. But with enough preparation, we actually support people to go into that. And that happens a lot because that energy is very healing. It actually opens you up from the inside.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. I have another question. Why do I feel exhausted every time I take a full breath?
When we begin to breathe deeply, as I mentioned before, we again become aware of what is our body holding. So in my understanding, from my experience of working with people over the years, when I hear someone says that the moment I begin to breathe deeply, I feel exhaustion. This is an old exhaustion that's been masked and covered up by this active fight or flight that is stuck in the body, that's related to past trauma. In essence, what is trauma? It's interrupted expression. body's gone into a process where the energy is released into the body, but not fully expressed. So it takes a lot of energy in your physical body to constantly keep going, to hold that interrupted charge in place. So the moment you start to breathe, you start to relax. So that exhaustion that you felt, that actually you did not allow yourself to feel, all of a sudden you begin to feel it. And I've seen this happen over and over. This is not uncommon.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Another question. Is it useful to inhale, then hold the breath, and exhale where that holding the breath is a moment of inner awareness?
There are many different techniques that achieve different results. In the work that I practice, we don't really use breath holding. The key here is to actually use the connected breath without any break in between the inhalation and exhalation. But breath holding has its own effects. It has its own benefits. But not in the modality that we use, we try to avoid it. Because holding the breath again produces contraction.
Yeah, breathe.
Yeah, so when you hold, you're breathing, you hold, you contract. You don't let the movement happen. You can't really hold the breath and deeply, fully move. We want to facilitate the release of movement. The only time we use breath holding or very, very shallow breath is when we go into what's called tense release unwind exercise that I use a lot in the session. So when we're breathing, then we inhaling and holding, actually contracting on purpose and holding that contraction for about 30 seconds and then relaxing, and then the body's relaxing. We're kind of melting that contraction and being watchful of how the energy that's been held in contraction starts to release, and then we move it through the body in the unwinding movement. So that's pretty much the only time that we include breath holding, and not in all cases.
Yeah, thank you. Another question: how do felt ancestral traumas tie into the healing process? Are they similar to working with behavioral traumas?
You know, we are, no matter where you come from, you're carrying some kind of ancestral trauma with you. And a lot of the trauma is passed on through the DNA. So when we begin to work with ourselves, we are healing our DNA, so we don't have to pass it on to the next generation. And studies have been done, and I've read different articles in scientific journals about that it does work. So when we begin to work with ourselves, when we heal our trauma, we actually heal it for all our ancestors. Yeah. So I don't know if I answer the question in the way that you expected, but this is my understanding.
Yeah, thank you. Another question: what is the difference in quality breathing, through the mouth or through the nose? Does it have a meaning in breath work and releasing tensions?
Yeah, so breathing through the mouth, of course, you get a lot more air with each breath. So the process of charging the body is a lot quicker. When you are breathing in through the nose, you are kind of prolonging that charging process. That it's pretty simple. Bigger hole. That's nose. Yeah, so we are using the mouth breath, not always right in the beginning of the session, because we are working with trauma. We don't want to overwhelm the body with a lot of charge right away. We want to give our nervous system possibility to slowly adjust to the charge that's being generated. That's why we're breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. But we still need to generate some charge. If we're breathing in and out through the nose, and we're breathing in kind of a medium tempo, we will not generate enough charge. So the certain tempo of breath needs to be happening so we can generate the charge. And once the nervous system is used to it, we switch to breathing into the mouth. Yeah, and so then we're charging very quickly. And also breathing through the mouth allows us to relax the throat. Yeah. Yeah, breathing through the nose, the breath pretty much bypasses the throat. When we are relaxing our throat, we're relaxing our jaw, we're working with all of the structures around our jaw, our palate, our trachea, all of the structures around the throat and the neck. So this is all connected.
Okay. Another question from Diana, and I think it's connected to one of the previous questions. You're talking about Reikian digitotherapy. What when a traumatized person doesn't feel the body and is not capable of releasing the locked energy? Are there any specific approaches?
I'm talking about Reikian body-oriented therapy. So biodynamic breathwork uses the concept that Reich discovered, how the body stores the 7 belts of tension, and working with that physical armoring that we put on as a result of the developmental trauma. So when the person is numb, it cannot feel the body. That's all that locked energy is in the body. The Reichian approach, the way that we work, we slowly melt that armoring. So we never just rip it off. It's not this like it used to be back in the days, this encounter therapy, which was effective in a certain way, but it was a lot to process. So what we know about trauma these days, the softer is better. It may take a little time longer, but we are supporting nervous system to rebuild the resilience. So when someone, for someone it's difficult to feel their physical body, with time, they actually regain that ability by relaxing that superficial armoring that they're carrying. There's a reason why they can't feel. And the reason is probably they're overwhelmed or they contracted because it was too much to feel at the time. So restoring our physical sensation, our felt sensation of our physical body, it's actually becomes healing.
Okay, thank you. So I think we will pick the last question because our time is running out. So there's a question about touch. Sarah asks, how important is touch and how can we do this work online without touch?
So when we work online, we use self-touch, and it's extremely important. So when I work with someone in the online environment, I guide them to put their hands on their body. I guide them to do certain self-body work techniques during the session. And that actually, for many people, gives that context of safety. Maybe many people are not comfortable with having someone else touch their body simply because of a previous trauma, but they're okay to put their own hands on their physical body. So touch is extremely important. And touch, like I said in the beginning, can be stimulating. It can be in the form of body work, but touch can also be resourcing. Gently stroking your face or just softly touching your chest or your throat or whatever other part of the body supports you to reconnect with the felt sensations that, I have a body. I have that physical sensation that actually gives me possibility to stay in the moment. The most amazing thing about felt sense, it's always in the now. It can never exist in the past or in the future. That's why it's a meditative experience. to be in the now and use your own touch to bring you into the moment. How do I feel right now through the touch, whether it comes from the outside, someone supporting in-person session with some body work or some soft resourcing touch, or it's my own hands on my physical body. And where do they want to go? Where my body wants the attention of touch this moment. Only you know that, not the person from the outside. I can only guess. I could never know 100% what the client is feeling. It's up to them. So it also gives a client responsibility to take their healing into their own hands and not to put it onto the therapist. Hey, I'm paying you money, heal me, support me to my healing. No, this is your path to go, to walk on. I'm here to just give you a little bit of direction in it, and it's your journey. So that's how important the touch is in this work.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Giten, for sharing your gifts. It was an enlightening conversation for me, and I definitely will look into biodynamic breathwork more. Not only experiencing it, but maybe reading more and learning more. Is there any particular place in the internet that people can find you?
Yes, of course. My website is biodynamicbreath.com. I'm going to put it in the chat. And we have a training program, and I'm part of your training program. So I'm very happy to share my experience. Philip already put it up. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and my website has a lot of information on the work and what we do. I'm very happy to support you. Send me a message. My email, my contact is there. Happy to connect.
Perfect. And just reminding all of you that Giten will have 2 workshops during our 3-month training program called Integrating Somatic Techniques in Therapy. And Giten's workshops about breathwork will be on the November 21st and November 28th. So this will be workshop 12 and workshop 13. Thank you again for being here with us today, and have a beautiful rest of the day, and we will be in touch.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.